Perfect. So for our next segment, I'm really excited to introduce Clea Jones. So Clea is an absolute expert when it comes to copywriting. She's had a successful career as an editor and product manager at Yahoo and Channel 7 News, and then set up her own copywriting agency and has worked for some really, really big brands. She's also won Sole Trader of the Year at Small Business Awards. So both our presenters today are award winning. So very excited to hear from her. But what Clea is doing today is something I believe is very brave. So when people get hacked or things go wrong, usually you try to brush it under the carpet and don't talk about it, but that doesn't help anyone. And when I spoke with Clea a couple of months ago, she really wanted others to benefit and not have to make the same mistake. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Clea, who's very kindly agreed to share her experience and, more importantly, her learnings from that.
Thanks, Kavita, and hi, everyone. I know we don't have a lot of time, so let me just make sure I've got the timer on and wave frantically if I drop out, because my internet connection can be a bit tricky sometimes. So I'm a copywriter. I'm a content creator. I love what I do. I've spent 20 years building up what I do. I'm not a technical expert. I am working on being a business expert, but that's a journey. And so I wanted to share a little bit about what happened when I got hacked. It was towards the end of July, and I noticed on a Saturday evening, I had a text message that said, "Why have you taken money out of my account?" And I thought, oh, that's a scammer. I'm going to ignore it. The next morning, the phone rang, and it was somebody who sounded very credible. They said, "You don't know me, but you've taken money out of my account." And I thought, that's weird. And I looked in my bank account and went, well, I haven't. And then I just happened to post quickly on a business group that I'm in. Has anyone ever had this happen? Fortunately, my web developer was in that group. He rang me and he said, open your Stripe. I use Stripe to collect credit card payments, probably transact less than $1,000 a month. He said, somebody's gotten into your Stripe. I've seen this before. So I logged into Stripe, and lo and behold, somebody had got in and they were using my account as a kind of puppet account, and they were trying to test credit card numbers. This is, to my knowledge, what happened. And they were withdrawing kind of $1 to $5 from people. They were getting blocked and they were failing with a lot of the efforts, but they succeeded 20,000 times. And every single transaction went out with my name, my business, and my phone number connected to it. So by the time I got onto what happened, it had been about 12 hours. They had processed one transaction per second for 12 hours. It was so bad. It was so bad, you guys. And I had all this money in my account that wasn't mine, and I had people calling me, emailing me, messaging me, literally from all over the world. I ended up pitching to them in the end. When they rang, I said, yeah, I've been hacked. You need to check your credit card, talk to your financial institution, and do you need a copywriter? It was so distressing. I had to process every single refund manually. So there were 20,000. I think I could do 20 at a time. So me and my family spent all day processing the refunds, handling the phone calls. And then Stripe went, oh, don't forget that we charge you for every single refund. And they went straight into my account and they charged me, I think the total was $10,000. And under the agreement that I'd signed, they were able to just literally go into my bank account and pull out $10,000. So you can imagine, I was so stressed. I was so upset. I was so ashamed of the fact that I'd let this happen. It was one of the most stressful, horrible things that's ever happened to me. The good thing was I was able to recover most of the money, which I'll go through shortly. So these are the lessons that I learned. The first thing was, I thought, I'm a tiny business. I'm a sole trader. I don't have millions of dollars. I don't have thousands of customers. I'm not going to be a target. It had absolutely nothing to do with that. It was literally the fact that I have accounts that allow money to be exchanged. They got in that way. I was a total puppet. I don't even really know what happened after they used my account. I'm very, very lucky that I don't have this global reputation that was damaged. I don't fall under the laws that I have to do a big public announcement about it. But that was my first mistake, was thinking it won't happen to me because I'm just a sole trader. It's just me. No big deal. A big reason that this happened was that the account I had set up on Stripe and the account that I used on LastPass, which is a password storing, which actually was a really big hacking incident that I believe was linked to this. They were going to an old email, so I wasn't getting that information. Both things I was able to log in, I was able to use, but I wasn't actually getting a great deal of information. So that was a really big mistake. So if you've got anything financially related or password related, make sure the notifications go where you're going to see them. When I built my website, I thought, great, I'm going to use it to charge people. They can pay with a credit card. And then I decided, no, I'm not going to do that. And so I kind of made the page, it wasn't disabled, but it just wasn't anywhere on my website. And it had gone through my head, well, I don't process credit card payments through my website. I didn't have a live, active customer-facing page. Didn't mean it didn't exist. And again, I'm not the expert, but there was some codes on that page that helped them talk to Stripe. And I'm pretty sure, from my understanding, that that's where the hackers got in. So talk to your web developer, have a chat, ask what needs to be updated. What do I need to be doing in terms of cybersecurity? You should probably be checking in regularly. I was doing that. The other thing was I was letting my bookkeeper manage my Stripe. Now, it happened on the weekend. There probably would have been some warning signs on the Friday afternoon. Like that, I'm very, very lucky that my web developer was able to help me. But I think it's just a really good reminder that you should always be keeping an eye on these accounts. The story he told me was that he had another thing happen with a similar client, and that client went 2 weeks without noticing. And they had to hire people to help issue the refunds because it was just such a major problem. And the last thing I did was I completely panicked. I freaked out. I was a total emotional wreck. And hitting that refund, I wasn't kind of stopping and pausing and having a look at what was happening. I should have got to a point where I thought, oh, actually, this is starting to cost me money. What am I going to do now? When these things happen, you do go into total fight or flight mode. And I think that it's really possible to make things worse, which is what I did. Calm down. The sky is not falling. My first step was to stop people from accessing the account. After that, I should have just calmed down and taken it a little bit more step by step, rather than just throwing everything I madly could at the problem. All right, so these are my takeaways. Everyone is a target. To me now, a cyber attack is like, your house being broken into, or you breaking a leg, or you getting COVID. It's unlucky, but the chances are it's going to happen to you in your lifetime, and you need to be aware of that. And I think having that on your mind, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what your business is, you're a target and you're vulnerable to attack. Like, it literally is a war, which is really a massive bummer, but that's the way you've got to look at it. Vigilance, keep up to date with your passwords, keep up to date with the accounts that you manage, add two-factor authentication. Even if there's that little bit of friction to entry that drives you crazy, it's a lot better than losing, three people's time for an entire day to try and sort out this problem. The next thing I've put, prevention is better than cure. So try to be a step ahead of these people, because it's not just the financial and the time that you lose, but the emotional stress that I went through. Like, I never would have thought I would be as upset and stressed as I was. A couple of days after it happened, I rang a friend just sobbing, partly because I was so disappointed in myself that I'd let it happen. She had to come over. We had to eat a lot of cake. It was very, very stressful. So I think that that's a big lesson that I learned. And finally, with Stripe, they said, oh, look, our policy is too bad. And I said, that's not good enough. I rang every day. I cried. I sent emails. I complained loudly. I connected with, people in the industry that I know to start having conversations. And then eventually they came back and said, oh, we'll make an exception. And they did give me about 80% of the money back, which was a really good result. It took quite a few weeks. And in that time, I had to kind of beg and borrow, not steal, money to cover my bills and make sure I could pay my staff. So I think, there's always a solution and you can always push for it. So that's my tale of woe. Please don't reach out to me for help with cybersecurity because I'm like the benchmark for what not to do. And Sarah's probably shaking her head and going, rookie mistake, rookie mistake, rookie mistake. And she'll give you some excellent information to follow up. But if you need a copywriter and a content creator, that's my information right there. So that's all from me. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Clea. I have just a quick question about did you do the audit of your entire system before launch, back when it's launched, when people can access this billing page?
After the incident?
No. Before, when you launch something that people gonna put the credit card or interact with your system through Stripe, for example, did you do the just audit before going to production, before letting everyone that they can, do some transactions on your website?
Yeah, and tested it. And I work with a web developer who I do trust, but it had literally been, I think, 5 years.
Oh, it's one person also? I'm just curious.
Yeah, oh, my web developer has a team and he had someone in the Philippines helping me as well. So that was really good. Knowing that they had 24/7 service was a really big factor because Stripe couldn't shut it off. I had to, and my web team had to shut it off and stop it from happening. So that's another good lesson, is to have some really reliable people, cyber and tech people on your team.
Yeah, that's definitely a tragic thing. And I would also add on top of that, never trust such things to one company that built the platform for you. It always should be unbiased. So it's better on purpose find someone else, because otherwise it won't be able to quickly see what's going on.
Yep. Good point.
Thank you so much, Claire. What we're going to do now is I've again paired everyone up and we're going to break for a very short 5 minutes where in your pairs, what I'd love for you to do is, based on Claire's experience, have a think about how safe you feel your business is, or any specific questions you may have, because what we'll do is when we come back, we'll spend the remainder of the session speaking with Sarah, who can actually answer some of these questions. And I can see a few in the chat already, but we'll cover that when we come back. Sound good? So I'm going to open the rooms again, and I will see you back in 5 minutes. So have some good discussions. Okay, just waiting for Sarah to join us. It's crazy how the hour just whizzes by. Okay, perfect. So next up, we have got 10 minutes, and we wanted to make sure we spend this time speaking with Sarah. So for those of you who don't know Sarah, she is the founder and managing director of Cyber Unlocked, a Sydney-based cybersecurity consultancy that has not only just recently received the 2023 Australian Women's Small Business Champion Award. So congrats, Sarah. But her firm is also a finalist in the Cybersecurity SMB of the Year 2023 AISA Awards that are coming up. When is that, Sarah? Is that next week or?
Yeah, this time next week or Tuesday evening. So
there you go. So wish you the very, very best. But what we thought we'd do with Sarah is, rather than have a presentation and some slides, we thought we'd have a conversation, right? So I'm going to kick it off by asking a few questions. But what I'd encourage you to do is jump in. I see there are a few questions in the chat, but ask Sarah. This is a good time to, ask those questions, and everyone can benefit from some of the answers. So to kick things off, Sarah, given human error is a significant factor in security breaches, what kind of ongoing either training programs or protocols can small businesses put in place either for themselves or for their staff to ensure that their team are educated on the latest cybersecurity breaches or practices?
Yeah, and first off, it's a really beautiful story. Sorry, sad story, but beautiful that Clem, expressed it and shared it. Many people keep these very much, close to their chest unless they have a regulatory. So, hearing more, hopefully that takes away. I've got the more of a boring speech, but that's a very compelling reason to do so. Before we get to the people, when we talk, anyone with a website, particularly if you're payment piece, PCI compliance, you have to have an understanding if you're required to have that compliance, and that's sort of a level up. But also there is a difference between functional testing of a web page and security testing. There is a difference. We do play nicely together, but there is a difference. So one, the accountant never audits their own work. The same sort of applies there. So if there was a takeaway, if you're doing a development of a web page or creating a web page, and particularly if you have, a payment sort of portal or customer portal associated with that, also have an independent security audit done of that. And then timely. So, these things do change. Security never stays the same. But to the question at hand, 85% of all data breaches are caused by our mistakes. And I say our because I don't like to name and shame. That can happen. But, only sort of need to name and shame when it's appropriate for disciplinary actions. So that's a huge percent of data breaches. So definitely training and preventative measures are really key to that. Having procedures, having policies, having incident response plans are sort of part of that, that documentation component of it, but really have a point. The main thing is people need to understand everyone has a role, not just similar to physical security, the good old receptionist at the door, making sure, you have guests signing into, to a premise. That sort of thing happens, and that sort of default position in sort of a physical security sense. But how do we do that virtually? We live and breathe emails, whether we like it or not. Some days we like it, some days we don't. But, making sure everyone knows about the risk of a phishing attack, and that's that dodgy email with the link. At the end of the day, we're all part of a human firewall. So training is definitely important. Yes, there are different providers. Obviously, we provide something like that to train staff, but it might not be the right fit for every organization. So what's the right fit for your size, your, what you provide, what sectors you operate in, but having something in there, from having it in team meetings covered or having an ongoing training and what we call phishing simulation program. What we want to see though is those risks reduce, so people have that awareness.
Awesome, thank you. I'm just looking through the chat, and I think Cass had a question earlier. Would Bytefinder's secure payment gateway prevent this?
It's really hard to know exactly, without knowing the whole architecture and what the setup is. If you do have a website with payments, who your providers are, making sure you do have practices there. The thing with anything like that is having it regularly tested, because if your website, Grace mentioned it earlier on about maintenance is incredibly important. The same as applies to your website. If you've got anything like there, the number of times we do an audit and out of date Java libraries comes up every time, click frames, so different things like that can be used to attack. Just the big takeaway there is if you have payments or customer sensitive information portals, you are more at risk, and you need to make sure they are completely locked down. The other thing to note, I know we're only at 4 minutes and it's probably pushing it. I want to have people think one key takeaway. Yes, Cybersecurity Month. Yes, you need to, all take a moment to refresh that. But I want to throw a statistic out there. I want to ask, how long do you think it takes an 8-character password to be hacked? So throw it in the comments, or take yourself off mute, just shout out how long you think an 8-character password will take to get hacked.
Instant.
Very close, Grace. So basically, as of this year, and it's reducing year on year, less than 5 minutes. So if you are still using less than double-digit passwords, please just go and update those. So, it doesn't take much to make that multiple years for a bot to crack a password. So really, I mean, if you want it to be, years and years, make it sort of above 15 characters. I personally would love people to have 20-character passwords, but please don't use less than 10-character passwords. Again, that is talking about, your capital letters, lowercase letters, special characters, and the like, but just length. You can have things like passphrases, which is, the good old typing part, string of the quick bound fox jumped over the lazy dog. Imagine that, but just a random song lyric or what have you. Doesn't need to be random. It can just be a random, sentence, so to speak. But that's probably a really important piece, coupled with multi-factor authentication. There isn't an alternative to that at the moment. So you've got to have that. And if you've got teams, that's a culture change. There's always going to be people that are going to complain about having to put that annoying code in. But it's really there to safeguard your organization and your business risk.
I have so many questions, but I want to open it up to the floor as well in the last couple of minutes. Does anyone have anything specific they'd like to ask Sarah?
I was going to make a comment if I could.
Yes.
Something that used to be the rage a few years back but seems to have died is using passphrases, where you're using a song lyric or whatever. Doesn't matter what it is. A computer can't crack a passphrase. Well, it could, but it'd take eons.
Yes, so definitely still passphrases. What we're talking about is length. And, what we do still talk about passphrases as song lyrics to help guide people. But length is really what we're trying to get to with that level of complexity.
Sarah, Sunny here. I've just got a question. As part of a recent hackathon, I developed a GPT system for one of the businesses I work with using generative AI. And as amazing as it got shut down by the IT team because of the potential risk of releasing sensitive customer data, even though it was all anonymized. Are there any watch outs for anybody who's actually playing around in that space?
Yeah, so AI is I haven't had the password manager question yet, but I will expect an AI and password manager question. AI is definitely there. I mean, it's a bit of a thing at the moment. A lot of it is actually what we call machine learning, which was something for another day. The thing to note is there are benefits, there's also risks. So yes, there's the benefits to reduce human error, productivity, and the like. You must have some coverage in your organizational policies for the use of AI so that your team understand its use. I'm not going to say don't use it because that's not realistic. What you want to make sure is no confidential information is shared. The risks are it is uncontrolled. It does sort of have learning biases in there. It does have privacy concerns and there's liability challenges with it. So you need to be well informed and have sort of procedures in place and expectations in place with your staff. Now, larger organizations are trying to build their own so that they kind of can put that in. But at the moment, it's just a copy and paste. And that's the risk. It's not dissimilar to, putting everyone in the 2 column instead of a BCC row. So, yeah, use with caution, but do embrace the technology.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah and Clea. We're at time. The hour has completely whizzed by, but I just want to thank both our presenters for sharing such valuable information, but also to everyone else for their active participation. Hopefully you've all learned something new. I know I have. Gonna go change those passwords and met some interesting people. We'd love to know more about what would make these sessions of value to you. So please reach out if there are any suggestions, recommendations, or thoughts. Otherwise, I wish you all a great rest of the week, and I will see you at our next event on the 17th. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Kavita. Take care, everyone.
You too. Bye.